Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. This feels like an episode that I've wanted to do for a very long time, and I honestly feel like I have the perfect guest to talk about this today. We are going to get into it, no filters, and I'm just so excited to talk all things female pleasure, sexuality, and just really opening up the conversation. I think so many people and so many platforms are opening up this conversation for women, and I think it's so important for your physical health but also your mental health, to feel safe, to express yourself, and just enjoy your fucking body, because it's your body and you deserve to enjoy it. So I have a beautiful guest with me. I have the lovely Lois, and I will let her introduce herself to you all. So to you, my dear.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much, Jamie, for having me here. Or actually having me back on the podcast. I think we actually did an episode a couple of years ago now, isn't it? Must
I
have
think
been like
last year.
coming up to, was it last year or maybe like a year and a half ago? Yeah, a long time ago. So yeah, thank you so much for having me back. And hello, everyone. My name is Lois Banks. My Instagram handle is Lois Banks Fitness. I am a women's online fitness coach. I work a lot with my clients on mindset. I am also a podcaster myself, a photographer, and I just love helping women to become the best version of themselves. So that is my mission through whatever platform I'm on, whether it be through my photography, my coaching, my podcast. It is my mission to empower women to thrive and become the best that they can be. And I'm so excited to get stuck into this today because I know that we are going to just go so unfiltered and so raw and hopefully be able to reach out to any of you guys out there that might need this little girly chat today.
Yeah, and that's exactly how we're seeing this, is like a girly chat, and I think and the reason I wanted to do this podcast with you, because I had this concept of this podcast, and this will be coming out on Valentine's Day, because I think, for me, I'm single and I am really on the journey of like reclaiming my power, reclaiming my sensuality, and just sort of like coming back to me. And it got me thinking about, like how I want to spend my Valentine's honoring myself. It is going to be a Valentine's for me. And of course, masturbation come up, because of course of course that's gonna happen on
Hell
Valentine's Day.
yeah.
Yeah, 100%. That is like a self-care essential. And seeing all the stuff you've been doing with your photography and everything, and even when we spoke in person, we went out on that night out, and it was so nice to have an open like conversation about so many different things. And I think, being able to talk about sex and things like that is just so important. And I think it's so freeing to be able to have these open conversations, especially with women, because guys have these conversations all the time, and there's no shame, and there's no like, oh, how dare you talk about that, versus when a woman, if I was to come online and say, and obviously things are changing, which is fucking amazing, which is why we can, have this conversation. Women are sharing more about self-pleasure and toys, and just having open conversations, which I think is absolutely amazing. And I wanted to have one of those with you, my love. So,
Oh, I'm so excited and I literally cannot wait to get into this. And I think what's been really amazing over the last year, especially, is I think me and you have been on quite similar journeys
mm,
um, with our own growth and with processing and dealing with our own traumas. And I think like it's been amazing to see how you, Jamie, have like just fucking prioritized yourself over the
mm,
last year and like you're just like thriving and flourishing, and it's just amazing to see like how you've gone from maybe being in that lower point in your life
mm,
to coming out of it and being like, no, I'm choosing myself and
mm,
I'm gonna fucking thrive now. So like that's
mm,
really amazing to see. And I think we've both been in very similar situations in relationships where we haven't felt empowered, where we haven't felt like we can use our voice. And it's nice to be able to confidently say that, like, I feel like I can use my voice now.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you can use your voice now?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And I think women don't really understand how powerful their voice really is. And just also being able to like be a container for other women to do that as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, I love holding space for women because not a lot of people do, and not we don't really have space to do that, you know, which is what I want this podcast to be, is like a space where we can just communicate openly. And yeah, like, we've both been in relationships that have made us feel disempowered. And for me, really, that was where this kind of journey started of, you know, committing to becoming the better version of myself, and also where I even saw how bad things really were. And for me, it all started in, I always say this, but like, COVID literally changed my life because I was listening to so many podcasts and reading so many books. And one book that I read that I absolutely loved was called Come As You Are. Have you read it?
No, I haven't.
Oh, I can't remember who the author is, but it's a brilliant, brilliant book. And I highly recommend it to every single woman and every single man. And she basically just talks about female pleasure and sexuality, but from a scientific perspective as well. So, what a lot of women don't understand is obviously their bodies are completely different to men's. You know, we look at our, you know, thinking about, you know, our hormones and our libido and things like that, we are on a completely different scale to men. You know, we have a monthly cycle and we follow that cycle. So it's just a really, really insightful book. But listening to that, she was talking about one part of it where, you know, your if you're not wanting to like have sex with someone, she was basically saying that could be, you know, not necessarily a problem with your downstairs area. It could potentially be, you know, something emotionally. And that for me, I was like, oh, okay, that's why, you know, I'm not wanting to have sex with this person. It's not because I'm broken and I'm, you know, I don't have a libido. It's actually because there's some emotional shit going down.
Mm.
And that really helped me.
Well, there's so many things that can like affect your libido in general, isn't there? There's like, lifestyle factors. Obviously, like exercise can affect your libido,
Mm.
stress, lack of communication within your relationship, like bad habits as well. All those things can kind of it can enhance, or it can actually decrease your libido, right? And I think it's important to note that, like, not your libido is not going to stay the same
Mm.
throughout every stage of your life. It's gonna change, and there might be things that alter that. And I think what you just said there is that, it's almost that blame that you might put on yourself,
Mm.
especially if you are in an environment or maybe with somebody that doesn't make you feel empowered or makes you feel maybe a bit shit about yourself. That
Mm.
can affect your libido. And I've definitely been in a situation like that before, when I was in a relationship with somebody who, it was quite a toxic relationship, and I didn't want to have sex with that person anymore because I'd kind of almost like started to emotionally, I guess, check out,
Mm.
and it wasn't a very nice environment. So my stress levels were high. I mean, at that time, I remember being quite anxious. I remember my skin flaring up. Like, it was just, yeah, there were so many things that were happening to my body. And then along with that, I just noticed a complete drop in libido. Like, I didn't even want to pleasure myself on
Mm.
my own. Like I didn't even want to do that. There was like nothing. It was almost like there was no feeling down there anymore.
Mm.
And I thought that I was broken. And actually, my partner made me feel really, really bad and was like, why don't you want to have sex with me? You don't have sex with me anymore. We used to have loads of sex at the start, and now you don't have sex with me. You know, you make me feel like shit because you don't have sex with me. It makes me feel this way, this, that, the other. And I remember like really internalizing that. And I felt awful. I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm broken. I literally was like, what is going on with me? What's going
Mm.
on with my body? So I remember it was in lockdown. I booked some blood tests because I thought maybe I'm deficient in something. Maybe there's something wrong with my body. But blood tests, they all came back absolutely fine. And I remember saying to my partner, like, I don't know what's wrong. I don't know what's wrong. And I remember trying to really make a conscious effort to have sex with him, even though I didn't really want to. And I guess it was to please him.
Mm.
And it was like, yeah, I was putting my own happiness aside for him just to like please him. And
Yep.
I remember even buying supplements to try and enhance my libido. I
Mm.
bought maca root. I remember
Yep.
buying maca root. I remember saying to him, I'm gonna try this maca, or I'm gonna try this, I'm gonna try that. There was multiple times where like, you know, I'd break down and I literally was like, what is going on? Like, why am I just not functioning down there? And the relationship ended and I got a new lease of life.
Mm-hmm.
I got a new lease of life. That sex drive, girl, like that,
Yeah.
came back, honestly. And I was like, I was never broken.
Yep.
I was never broken. But the
Mm.
whole time I was made to feel like I was broken.
Yeah.
Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah. Very, very similar. Again, like unsupported relationship. And I think I've had a baby, so I think already that does add like a different dynamic to it, you know, like after you've had a baby. And it's really fucked up because like when you go for your 6 week checkup, they say like you shouldn't have sex like until you've had your 6 week checkup. And for my 6 week checkup, the doctor literally like looked at me and he was like, baby blues. And I was like, and bear in mind, I had my partner in there at the time and my baby. So if I was struggling, you know, and this is the thing as well, is I think like we're kind of like going on a bit of a tangent here, but I just want to say, but like doctors need to do better, like for everything, you know, like when you went to the doctor about, you know, you being like, oh, I've got no libido and you know, I want a blood test, you know, they should have the information to look outside of things that are physical because your emotions impact your physical body. Do you know what I mean? And I'm
Mm,
sure there are so many women and mothers that go to the doctor with a problem that they think is with them, but actually it's with their environment. Do you know what I mean? Like I was not in a place where even if I was struggling, I wouldn't have been able to say anything because my partner was there. Do you know
and to
what I
just
mean?
come at you and say baby blues.
Yeah, shit you not. He just went baby blues, and I was like, no.
No.
And it was like it didn't check my stomach or anything. And then it's like, yeah, cool. Do you want to be on the pill now because you can have sex now? Do you know what I mean? And stuff like that. So it's just
Mm,
really, really, it's really, really fucked up the way we look at sex. I think in general, I think sex is seen as this like, and when I was young, you know, like I was sexually active from quite a young age. I started having sex when I was 14. And I remember like not I'd never watched porn. Like I'd never, you know, I had no idea. You know, I had no idea. And even at that age, 14 years old, which is so young, I felt this pressure to perform. Like it was all about him. You know, it wasn't about, I didn't even know what an orgasm fucking was for women. Do you know what I mean? I was having sex with this partner, my first like proper boyfriend for like on and off like 2 years. And I think I had an orgasm once. And when I started, yeah, like reading these books and I was like, huh, orgasm gap, that's interesting, you know, and just kind of opened me up to this side of it. But for me, like coming back to when I first started questioning things, it was, yeah, like my relationship was bad. I'd been unhappy for a very long time. The sex wasn't good for a very long time. Like I didn't want to have sex, and when we did, I wasn't getting off. It was like just him.
Mm.
So again, it was like, okay, you're done. So what? What? Nothing happens to me. All right, then that's you know it wasn't great. Like I want to have sex to come. Like I don't just want to have sex for you to come. And I actually, you're saying about buying supplements and stuff. I bought toys, and I I did not masturbate until I was 23 years old. I'm 25 now. So I am 2 years into my masturbation journey. No, into like even starting that, and that was one of the weirdest things for me, was like actually pleasuring myself, because I'd never done it. And I was getting fed up towards obviously the end of my relationship, where we weren't having sex, and when we were, he was just getting off. And I was like, right, what about if I buy some toys? And again, I fucking paid for them. Like I was buying these things to fix this, when it wasn't like my problem in a sense. But yeah, and then I started using the toys, and I was like, this is so much better than
Well,
having sex
hello.
with you. Yeah. And
Yeah.
when I was, like starting that as well, I was thinking about other people, and I was like, oh, maybe that's a bit of a sign that, things need to change as well. And that was really empowering for me, was actually knowing how to pleasure myself and being able to do it. Cause then it was like,
Mm,
I don't I don't need you. Like,
yeah. It's so great that you've started that journey and you came to that realization that it was something that you wanted to add into your life, and something that it was important, and something that made
mm,
you feel empowered. And if you're listening to this right now, and if you're 30, 40, 50, and you've never self-pleasured yourself, like it's never too late to start. If you want to start
mm,
exploring, if you want to start exploring your body, like don't feel, you know, I think there is a lot of shame
yeah.
around self-pleasure. And what was the reason for you, Jamie? And that, I know that you said it's only been like 2 years since you started. Like, was there any kind of underlying beliefs before that for you, or anything that like stopped you from practicing self-pleasure?
Yeah. Like thinking that it wasn't something women do.
Mm,
Yeah, guys wank, but women don't. What? I'm just gonna finger myself? Like, what? Do you know what I mean? And I remember trying it when I was like younger, probably about 14, and I was just like 14, 15. I was just like, oh no, not for me. Like, didn't I didn't yeah, I just couldn't gel with it. I think there was a lot of shame. And even now, and I'm very aware of this. I'm very aware of this conditioned shame that we put upon children, like boys and girls. So obviously I've got a son, and obviously he's got a penis, and he is learning that touching it feels good. And I make sure that I don't shame him. Like if he was in the shower the other day, and he was putting the shower head on his willy, and he was giggling, and I'm
mm.
like, what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. And I think this is the problem, is women have been conditioned to feel like they are wrong for touching themselves. They are wrong for wanting to have an orgasm and feel good. And that's not
Well, they're made to
true.
feel like dirty as well. It's
Yeah.
like, why are you doing that? Like, kind of
Yeah.
thing. Because I think it has been so normalized for, you know, men to, or, boys to be experimental, or to even
Mm,
like just, hold the dick in the hand, that which is, normalized, which is fine. But like,
mm,
you know, if a woman was walking down the street holding on to, well, finger on her clit, I
mm,
think that a lot of people would think quite differently, and be like, what the
mm.
fuck is going on there? Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I get it though. We've not got much to kind of like hold on to, but like it's still kind of that principle of if it was the other way around, it would be seen as like this dirty, like, whoa, what are you doing? Like, why are you touching yourself in
Mm,
public? But it's like actually guys walk around with their dicks in their hands, you know.
yeah.
So I remember my first orgasm from self pleasure, and I remember it so vividly. It must have been when I was like 14, I think. Like I was quite young. And I remember speaking to one of my really good like male friends at the time. And we were really, really close, and we were just talking about it. And he was like, oh, like this is how you do it. Like, and I was like, oh, okay, right, fair enough. We were literally just texting each other. And I was like, oh, okay, like, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna like I've got some Vaseline in my drawer. I'm gonna have a little see what's the crack, what's going on. And I remember it so vividly because I literally did it and I messaged my friend and I was like, bro, what the fuck was that? I was like, what was that? Like that was I'm pretty sure my words were like, that was sick. Like kind of thing. Must have been like 14. So yeah, and then from there, I think I had always an interest in
Mm,
self-pleasure, and it was something that I prioritized and felt was
mm,
important, but also something that I kept a secret and I
mm,
wouldn't really talk about. So I wouldn't necessarily have conversations with Miguel mates about it, you know, or
mm.
it would be something that I'd kind of like kept to myself because I did for such a long time think, oh well, girls aren't meant to be doing this. This is naughty. This
Yeah,
is this is, you know,
gross.
definitely gross kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, but I loved it, you know, and I still
Yeah.
do love it. And I think it's like so important, and it's a release, you know,
Yeah.
it is a form of self-care. It is a form of,
Mm,
enjoyment. And actually, if you don't like it, then that's absolutely fine. If it's something that you don't enjoy, then that's absolutely fine. Like that's your decision. But I think if it's something that you do enjoy, but maybe there is a little bit of shame around
mm,
it, or a little bit of, I guess, of kind of guilt, maybe, um, don't suppress your needs because
mm,
of what you think other people might think or what you think
mm,
society thinks, because at the end of the day, like, all that matters is your choices for your own body and what makes you feel empowered.
mm. And I think as well, like, how can you expect someone to pleasure you when you don't know how to pleasure yourself? Do you know
Mm.
what I mean? Like, I'm only just discovering, and it changes all the time, you know, because we kind of go like a layer deeper. Like when I first ever masturbated, I kid you not, I literally had like a little bullet and I just put it on my clit and I just kept it there. Like I didn't even move. I was like, what do I do? I was like, I don't even know. Whereas now it's like trying new things. And I think, and obviously we can talk about this because we're in different situations right now. I'm single and you're in a relationship. So how does that kind of change the self-pleasure dynamic as well? Like, are you guys open about, you talking about, because again, as well, even in relationships, it's like, oh yeah, guys can watch porn and they can masturbate, but girls almost think that they can't. And it is so important as well. It's important for your physical health and your mental health. And it's one of those things where, and in the book Come As You Are, she literally talks about all of this, is like your libido is also responsive. So we respond to stimulus. So it's kind of like if you don't use it, you lose it. So the best way for you to increase your libido is by doing things that sounds silly, but doing things that increase your libido, not sitting around and waiting for your libido to pick up before you start doing things to increase it. So that could be self-pleasure, but even like having more sensual time. So like I love music. Like for me, I feel my sexiest when I'm either dancing or in the gym. Like I feel sexy when I'm lifting and grunting. Like I don't know about you, Lois, but that's the two places I feel really sexy, is either when I'm dressed up and dancing or when I'm in the gym with like messy hair and my gym leggings and cover in
Yeah.
chalk.
I'm exactly the same. I am exactly the same. And also I really love music as well.
Mm.
Like I think music for me helps me to get into that headspace because it's
Mm,
all about being in that headspace, right?
yeah.
You've got to be connected with your mind when it comes to self-pleasure because if your mind is elsewhere, you're
Mm,
most not likely not going to be able to relax and reach that point of climax, right? Whether it be self pleasure or whether it be you're being intimate with somebody.
yes.
So it's really important to whatever helps you to relax and come to that place,
Mm,
use that in your surroundings. So for me, it's music. It's
mhm.
also a nice, colourful light. I like a
Mm,
dim kind of maybe red light,
I'm the same.
or something like, and also a candle. Can't go wrong
Mhm.
with some candles, some
Yep.
incense, it's yeah.
Yep.
So that's I think a really important part is making sure that your surroundings are calming you down, bringing you to that place where you can just switch
Mm.
off and have that time for yourself or be in that space connected with whoever your partner or whoever you're being intimate with.
Yeah, 100%. I think like in a little bit we'll go on to kind of like how to start because I think that would be really, really helpful. But coming back to, the differences between self-pleasure when you're single and self-pleasure in a relationship, what would you kind of, because obviously you're in a relationship, I'm not, how has that kind of changed for you? Has it changed?
No, not really. I think so. Me and my partner, we have a bit of distance between us, so we don't see each other that regularly.
Mm,
So we will have periods where we are like, we might go like a couple of weeks or something, or a week or something where we don't see each other. And I'm not going to go a whole week without an orgasm. Thank you very much. So, girls got needs. So I'm very open and my partner's very open as well. And my partner is very non-judgmental and he's very supportive. And we sometimes we might bring it up and we might like joke about it. I'll be like, oh, I came 5 times today. Like, do you know what I mean? Like just
yeah.
something like that. Or um we might just have like an open conversation about it. Like he is very
Mm,
open and supportive. And I've talked to him before about my own self pleasure and he's never made me feel weird about it or
mm,
make like shamed me or anything like that. He's just been like, oh, like we just talked about it just like normal because it is normal, right?
yeah.
The same way that if he was to discuss that with me, I would be non-judgmental with him
Mm,
about that, right? And I think that's a really important part of being in a relationship is that communication and
mm,
holding space for one another to like talk freely about those things and not being judgmental because if you place any judgment or shame they're most likely not going to want to open up and talk to you about those things so that's really important. So no, it hasn't really changed for me as such. I mean, it's business as usual really with
my
with
schedule Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, self-care.
yeah. Well, no, it's more, yeah. So I don't really it's kind of when I'm feeling it. Like I'll
Mm,
make sure that I schedule in time, but it's more when I'm feeling it. And one thing that was a game changer for me with my own self-pleasure was incorporating toys. So
mm.
I have this thing called a magic wand from
Is that the
Anne
crystal
Summers.
ones? Oh no.
So it's the only way I can describe it. So it's like a long handle and then a
Mm.
big old ball at the end.
Yes, I've seen those. Is that
Yeah,
good?
fucking unreal. So good. I used to have a little bullet.
Yeah.
It's almost like I can't go back to that now because
Yeah.
I had a taste of the of the one. So I'm like,
Yeah.
no, can't I can't. That's just shit now. No. If you use a bullet, like yeah, that's cool. That's you. That's something you enjoy. But for me, I'm like, yeah, it's the wand or it's nothing now.
Do you know what? I first started pretty much just using just using a bullet, like just using literally like clit stimulation, nothing kind of like going in. And then I started like using a dildo as well. I actually prefer manual, so like me and something going in than a bullet. I find a bullet is a bit too
Mm.
much. I think it was really great at the beginning because obviously like at the start I didn't really know what to do, whereas now I kind of like I know what I like, and I find that it's a lot more intense, and I think that's where obviously it's more prolonged. And I've watched like loads of podcasts about this, and there's so many great people that you can follow, but it is, I think for me it is so important for me to schedule in that time for me to feel good. And I think as a single woman, I've not necessarily got, you know, kind of I don't want to say validation because it's not about having validation, but I don't have anyone to like feel sexy for. Like I do it for myself. Do you know what I mean? I feel
Mm.
sexy for myself. So then when I am in a relationship or when I am being intimate with someone, it's not like waking up a dead horse. Like I'm alive, I'm here, and I know what I want, and I'm already tapped into that part of me as well. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's important to maintain that, like you said, not just like for yourself, and for
Mm,
your own enjoyment. And yeah, it's important to prioritize that for sure.
yeah, yeah, 100%. How has being with someone who is, supportive and you can have open communication with and feel safe to do so, how has that changed? Has that changed anything for you with how you feel about yourself?
It's made me feel more empowered to be able to like speak up
Mm,
and use my voice,
mm,
and being in a relationship where I can communicate openly and be validated and not feel judged, has actually allowed me to feel great. Like I feel fucking great. Like that's the only way that I can actually describe it. And I think this is actually one of the first time, well, yeah, the first time that I've actually ever been in a relationship like this. So it feels it feels weird, but
mm,
it feels great. And it's really just empowering.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm so happy for you. It honestly makes me so happy seeing women in that container that can make them feel safe, because I think there's unfortunately, a lot of women and men probably that are in relationships that they don't feel safe. And that's not necessarily to say that that's a toxic relationship. I definitely think, you can be, you know, there are circumstances where there is no ill intent, it's our own kind of conditioning, our own kind of shame that kind of comes into it. But I think it's so important, I think it's so important for women to feel empowered and in all aspects of their life because, and I'm sure as well you see this, Lois, is like a lot of the time women will work with me, and when they get a bit more comfortable working with me, and some of them will say it right off the bat, they're like, I'm not fucking my husband. I don't feel sexy. I want to be able to have sex with the lights on. I want him to be able to put me in different positions. I want to be able to get on top. I want to be able to do all of these things. And that comes with, changing your, maybe yes, changing your body, but also just changing your relationship to your body, how you relate to your body. And I watched a beautiful documentary. It was like a docu-series on Netflix called Strip Down Rise Up, and it was about pole dancing, and I highly 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 recommend it. If you're listening to this podcast, you will love that. Okay, so just please 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 watch it. It is so fucking good. But do you see that in women you coach, Lois, is obviously how their weight and how their relationship with their body does then in turn impact their sex life and their relationships or marriages?
Yeah, massively, because I feel normally there's these internalized beliefs about their body and their own worth. So when they start to make decisions in their life that empower them,
Mm,
or maybe they start training and they start seeing all the amazing things that their body can do, and they start to feel amazing in themselves, and they show themselves what they're capable of. I think that then translates into other areas
yeah.
of their life. Like if you can feel confident in the gym and badass in the gym, you can feel badass and confident in other aspects of your life. And it's not as easy as just like flicking a switch and making that happen. You do have to start really working on the way you talk to yourself and
Mm,
the stories that you tell yourself about who you are, and working on if there are any ingrained beliefs in you, or societal shoulds that you've kind of believed about yourself as a woman,
mm,
and start replacing those narratives with the narratives that you want to create for yourself or that make you feel empowered. And I think I used to be a woman who wouldn't like to have the lights on
mm,
when I used to have sex, or I wouldn't like to go on top because I was like, oh my God, like they're going to be looking at all my chins or whatever, like, all those thoughts that go through your head. And I think it was only until I took control of my life and started taking control of like my decisions and, growing a business, smashing it in the gym, like actually speaking up and using my voice. And that really empowered me. And then from there, I was able to be more confident in my sex life and,
mm,
other aspects of my life. So I definitely think, you know, you can take control of like the way that you speak to yourself. You can take control of like the shit that you say about yourself,
mm,
and that can change or have an impact on how you show up in the bedroom or how you show up like in the workplace.
yeah. Because I think as well, like that's a part of every woman, and I don't think women kind of allow themselves to embrace that sexual side and that sensual side because often it is shamed. Women are slut shamed. um what would your like for let's say there's a lady listening to this and that even the word orgasm makes her legs cross, like, and cringe, but she does want to kind of start self-pleasuring or just exploring her body more and building her confidence and allowing herself to see that side of her. What kind of tips do you think you would give her?
I think first I'd maybe try and identify where those beliefs have come from first. What is it about that word orgasm that has made you feel that certain way? Is there something that somebody has said to you in the past, or something that you've been taught by, I don't know, like friends or parents? Is there something that has contributed to that belief?
Mm,
And then really trying to kind of pick that apart and almost like think to yourself, like, you know, I want to give this a try.
mm,
Can I allow myself to give myself that space to almost like experiment? Do I need to be so focused on what other people think or what other people say, when at the end of the day, what matters is what you want, right? So I
mm,
think it's like coming back to like that core belief, like what has been ingrained in you, like trying to unpick that.
mm,
Then I would say start off slowly. Like you don't have to head over to the Anne Summers section and go buy 10 dildos like tomorrow. Like,
yeah, and a
start
whip.
off small. Yeah, find what excites you.
Mm,
Is there something that you want to experiment with? Is there something that you've been thinking about for a long time? Is there something that you have maybe heard of and you want to try, and
mm,
kind of have a little bit of a brainstorm, maybe make a little bit of a list and then start to go through that list.
mm,
And then I think, I know that this probably isn't helpful, but just give it a try. Just
mm.
give it a try. Like, and if you're unsure on how to, we live in a day and age now where there is a lot of online material. So
Yes.
I'm sure if you was to, I mean, actually saying that on Instagram yesterday, I was
Mm.
scrolling through and there was a video on how to finger yourself.
Yeah.
Like it was done so well. Like it was
Mm,
done so well. It was very informative. Like it was
yeah.
it was it was done so well. And it was just like, and I think that really helps to take the shame
Yeah.
away from these things and like normalizes it more because it is normal and it should be normal. So I
Mm,
saw that. I was like, oh, that's like really cool. Like nobody's ever done that before. So there are a lot of resources out there for you to utilize. There's a lot of almost like tutorials for you
mm,
to watch or podcasts for you to listen to. I follow there's a podcast called Come Curious, and a lot of the stuff that they talk about on there helps to normalize sex and self-pleasure, and like talks about, as you like, shame with
mm,
attached to those things. So I would definitely say, listen to material that is going to empower you
mm,
towards your journey of like self pleasure, and you know almost like, I guess, start to learn that way, and then maybe start scheduling in time,
mm,
so like practice, or to say, okay, well, this week I'm going to aim for like maybe one self pleasure session. This
mm,
week I'm going to give it a go, then the next week I'm going to try two, and
mm,
then the week after that I'm going to go for three. It's just like maybe seeing like, or like just seeing how you feel, like seeing how like you go with it, and just experiment, and
mm,
don't be afraid to experiment with what feels good for you, because what feels good for you might not feel good for somebody else. So it's about experimenting. Maybe later down the line, if you don't want to order any toys at this point, ordering some toys, just having a little experiment. I think that's probably the best thing that you could kind of do.
mm. Yeah, 100%. And even, even before actually, doing any kind of like self-pleasure, like if you're at a point where, and in one of the books I read, and what I'm going to do as well for anyone listening is I'm going to put some of my favorite podcast books and pages in the comments below, because I follow so many pages and I've listened to so many podcasts around this where they actually go into the science of it. There's a Dr. Emily something, and she's like a sex expert, and she has an amazing podcast. So I'll put all those in the comments below for you ladies to go and check out. But if you are at a point where like you don't even look at your body, like you could just start by buying yourself some underwear, or I get some of my clients to do, I call it mirror work. So when they're in a space where they can't even look at their body and the thought of them being sexual or anything like that is so hard, I just say, right, for a minute, I want you to stand in front of the mirror naked, and I just want you to like run your hands over your body, like feel your curves, touch your skin, like, and that's a whole other level of like self-pleasure that I'm only just sort of starting to try. Like before it was literally like, right, lay down, grab the bullet, go. Whereas now it's like I take a hot bath and I put nice moisturizer on, and I light my candle, and I get my red light on, and I actually touch myself in other places before just going straight to and it's actually a vulva, ladies. A lot of you probably don't know this, but your vagina is actually just the internal part. Your whole outside is called your vulva. Like most people don't even know that. So
I didn't actually know that until a couple of years ago
yeah,
myself. So
yeah.
yeah, but also it was funny because I was watching Friends the other day, and it was the episode where Monica's talking about the how do I say it? Adrenalus zones. Is that how you say it? The different zones. There's like 7 zones for women on
Oh
their
yeah, she's like
body.
seven, seven,
Yeah,
seven.
I literally I cannot pronounce that, but yeah, there's 7 different zones on a woman's body
Mm,
to um
to feel
obviously
good.
like feel good, right? And it's funny because it was like I looked it up afterwards and there was a diagram, and there was a diagram, the zones of a woman
Yeah,
versus the zones on a guy.
literally just
And
penis.
literally the zones for women, it was like I'm gonna look it up now because like this is gonna annoy me. 7 zones. So it was like yeah, so it was like ear play, neck,
Yes.
breasts, kind of tummy button,
Mm-hmm.
um, vulva, toes, and thigh. So those are
Yeah.
the different zones. And then when you look at a guy, I don't know if you can see this, look
Oh,
on
that's so funny.
literally all just pointing towards his dick.
Yeah, literally.
So it's basically just all there. So yeah,
That's
there's a lot
funny.
of different areas for that was it. Erogenous zones. That's it. The most erogenous zone. So there's a lot of different areas for a woman to become stimulated.
Mm,
You know, for me, I really like it's my ears. It's
yeah.
like my ears, and like I like, the whole of my body being touched.
Mm,
So as you said, it's like a whole thing of like, it's
yeah.
not just like going straight down there and
No.
like straight to it. It's warming yourself up and,
Mm,
having an explore and feeling what feels right for you. And,
mm-hmm.
there's no like if you like having your ears licked, if that turns you on, don't be ashamed of that, right?
Hell
Or
yeah.
whatever it is. If you like having your toes licked, if that turns you on, cool. Like
If you
you
like
do
people
you,
spitting in your
you
mouth,
know?
fuck it.
Yeah, you do whatever turns you on. But I think it's important to be aware of that. But also if you are being sexual with somebody else, to communicate that and
Mm,
communicate your needs. And
yeah.
I definitely didn't I think in my younger years I found it really hard to communicate
Yeah.
my needs and what made me feel good.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think at the start of the podcast, you were saying that, it would always be like centered on them and what felt good for them, and
Mm,
the event being them coming,
yeah.
right? And it not being anything to do with you. And I think for such a long time, and I don't know if it's the same for you, felt like I couldn't speak up, even though I knew like
Mm,
I was, self-pleasuring myself whilst I was being sexually active when I was younger, and I knew what an orgasm felt
yeah.
like. But then when it came to being sexual when I was younger, I couldn't communicate and I couldn't open my voice to my partners because I felt maybe a bit embarrassed to
Mm,
speak up. I didn't feel confident to speak up. And also, I didn't want to bruise their ego
yeah.
as well. I didn't want to say, like, oh, this actually doesn't feel right for me, or actually,
Mm,
can you do this?
yeah.
Because in my head, I was thinking, well, they know what's best, you
Mm,
know? So
yeah.
I don't know if, did you kind of ever experience that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and I at this point have not been in a relationship where I have been able to say what I want and what I like. And in my past relationship, like obviously I bought the toys for us. And when I sort of said to him that I'd been using them, he was a bit like, what? Like, what do you mean? Sort of thing. And I was like, well, yeah. And he sort of tried to shame me for that. And it's safe to say our relationship came swiftly to an end, sort of.
I find that ridiculous though, because I'm sure he was, pleasuring himself.
Yeah, probably. But again, it's like
Mm.
this stigma of like men believe that women shouldn't do that. And it's the same with like porn, like watching porn as well is, for it's like you watch porn. Like I remember like I was showing someone something and I went on Google to Google it, and like when it's got like shortcuts, like a porn site was like on my shortcuts, and I was like lol. And I was like, I'm not gonna hide it. Like, do you know what I mean? If someone was to ask me, I'd be like, yeah, do you know what I mean? It's an open conversation. And this is something that I want to share because this has been a real big game changer for me, is like just audio porn. So like I find like if I watch porn, sometimes I find it a bit too. I actually just love using my imagination. Like I like imagining. That's like what sort of gets me off the most. And what I have found works really well for me, if you're someone who doesn't really gel with porn, because when I first started like masturbating, I was like, right, so I just watch porn and touch myself. Is that kind of like how it works? But what I found really works for me is, and you can even do guided masturbation sessions like I've got on I'll link them below for you ladies, is like guided if they call it edging and stuff like that. So you can do edging and things like that, which is basically where you kind of bring yourself to the point of coming and then you slow things down, and what that basically does is it ends up intensifying your orgasms. But yeah, what I found is actually I much prefer is actually just listening to porn. So like it could be different kinds of um like stimulus. So there's like a guy one where it's kind of like a guy moaning and things like that. And I have just found that so much better for me personally. Have you ever listened to anything like that?
I didn't even know that existed. I
Yeah,
didn't know that
see,
existed. No.
this
So
is why we need to have these
thanks, Jamie.
conversations. You're
I'll
welcome.
be
Let me
clicking
know
that
how it
link, girl.
goes. I'll send you a link.
No. So, but to be fair, like I'm quite a visual person anyway.
Mm,
Like I almost like need something visually to
yeah.
focus on. Um, so like I'm like quite like visual in that sense. But if you don't like to watch porn, if that's, something that's maybe not for you, um, if you are in a relationship, or even if you're not in a relationship, like you could always maybe ask your partner to send you a photo, and you could
Mm,
maybe use that if that's something that if you feel like maybe you need some kind of visual stimulus, but you don't want to watch porn, because porn
mm,
isn't for everybody.
no.
So it's about finding like what stimulates you, whether it be through audio, whether it be through, you could even be reading a book, right? You got 50 Shades of Grey, like all
Yeah.
those kind of, books, or even yeah, like videos, or like, yeah, whatever kind of stimulates you.
Vikings has been the one for me.
Vikings.
Oh, the Vikings Valhalla. There's an actor on there. I'm sure you've probably seen him on Instagram. His name's Leo something. He is just like my ideal man. So I was watching the Vikings and I was like, I'm gonna have to go and excuse myself right now. Like, honestly. But yeah,
BRB.
yeah, you can become, and that's the thing as well, is like start what like it's seeing what actually like turns you on by like the things you're watching, what kind of scenes you like, or yeah, just explore. There's nothing wrong with it. Like you are so normal. And what Lois was saying earlier about like figuring out where the shame comes from, and a lot of it is just like societal. It massively put upon us. I look at, if I couldn't have a conversation to my nan about me masturbating, she'd be like, what do you know what I mean? Like that's not, but what girls do. But times are changing, and it is by having conversations like this and having open conversations with your partners, with your friends. Like, ladies, stop faking orgasms. Like, that helps no one. Stop faking orgasms. All right, this is the time to communicate what you need, what you like, and just enjoy your body, because this is the only one you get. It goes so much deeper than just like having an orgasm. It really is about enjoying yourself and pleasuring yourself.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. But for I have definitely faked orgasms in the past, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
because of I haven't been able to communicate freely, or I didn't feel actually in a safe place where I
Mm.
could communicate freely. So I think if you are somebody that does fake orgasms, um don't be afraid to use your voice.
Mm,
Don't be afraid to speak up, because I'm pretty sure that the other party would speak their, point if they weren't going to come to that point of climax. So I think, definitely use your voice, and prioritize what you want and your needs, because they're
yeah.
important too. Don't suppress that.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any other talking points that you want to cover? I thought if you don't, it might be fun to do like a few quick fire questions, kind of like really open questions for just like a bit of banter for everyone.
Okay.
Do you
Okay.
have
Yeah.
anything else you want to cover? Or
I think the last thing that I was gonna maybe say is that, and I think we've kind of covered, but we haven't really covered, is about, like foreplay is like super, super
mm,
important before jumping into anything, in my like personal opinion. And I think that I have definitely been in situations before where we've jumped straight into it without warming up, and without actually realizing that I needed that warming up. I didn't actually realize for such a long time when I was younger that foreplay is
mm,
sex and is an important part of the experience. And actually, you can, if you want to, just have foreplay. Like, that is still sex. You don't have to,
mm,
you know, have penetration for it to be sex, right? So you can
mm,
still have foreplay. So I think, you know if you are somebody that needs more stimulation, don't be afraid to voice that to whoever you're with. Like, if they're going to jump straight in, because I've definitely been in situations before when it's been like, right, okay, we're going straight in. And I'm like, whoa, like, hold up,
yeah,
like, hold the boat. Like, I'm not warmed up here, kind of
yeah,
thing. And I think it's being able to, again, going back to that communication piece, going back to like communicating and saying, like, what is important to you
mm,
and what makes you feel good. So don't be afraid to, like, use your voice.
yeah, yeah. And I've said this like twice already, but I'm going to say it again because it's just it taught me so much. Is again, like the book Come As You Are, she talks all about how, women actually need more foreplay, and women, again, men and women are different, and we could do a whole other podcast on that, so I won't like go off on a tangent. But men and women are different. We have different desires. Women typically do deal with more stress day to day, especially if you're a mum, and I think maybe I'll do a solo episode or get another mummy on here to talk about how things kind of change when you have children, because it definitely does, and if you've had a child and whether your baby is 6 months or 6 years and you feel like you haven't quite found that spark or part of you, like she is still there. Like, I promise you she is. It might just take a little bit of work to find her, but I'll do another episode on that because I could go off on a tangent. um should we do some funny questions or like some fire
Yeah,
round questions? So
let's do
you
it.
you can ask me as well, and I'll ask you one, and then you can ask me one if you want. What is your favorite porn to watch?
um I had this one episode which was like, it was like
Oh, I'd like
cowboy
that.
cowgirl. And I remember there was a video that I watched, and they were fucking on this snooker table in this saloon, and there was like loads of people watching. Just remember that one video that really sticks out to me. What about you?
uh Lesbian for me. Lesbian or threesomes. Like, if I was to say categories, I don't know what it is. Like, I'm not I'm not I'm not bisexual. I definitely would be up for exploring sex with a woman or like as a third party. Like, I definitely would be open to doing threesomes with a guy and a girl. Um, which, like, so I don't say I'm bi because I don't think I'd be in a relationship with a woman. Does that make sense? Like, I don't think I could romantically be with a woman, but I love women's bodies. I think women are gorgeous. So for me personally, yeah, three ways, normally two girls and a guy, or lesbian porn is my favorite. Love
Nice. I
it.
mean, like whatever stimulates you,
Yeah,
like whatever you
100%.
enjoy. There's no shame in that.
Yeah, absolutely. What is the weirdest place you've had sex?
Weirdest. In an elevator.
Oh, that's pretty
Yeah,
sexy.
in an elevator. No, it wasn't.
Oh, was it
It really
not?
wasn't. No, it wasn't.
Did you get caught?
No, but we realised after there was a camera in
Yeah.
the elevator, but it's
Mm,
fine.
mm. Go on, you for me.
Morning sex or evening sex?
Probably evening. Probably evening for me. I don't know, Lois. I've not had a lot of sex for a long time.
Do you know what? I think I really like both. I think it depends on like the mood. Like sometimes if you've gone out for the evening and you're both
Mm,
dressed up or whatever, and then you come back and then it's like
mm,
evening, but then also like you might wake up in the morning and it's like, I don't know, Sunday morning and it's a bit lazy and it's like, I don't
mm.
know, like, yeah. So I think for me, both. What's your favorite sex position?
Normally, it has been me on top on in some form. Like I really like, I don't know what this is called, but I really like the guy sitting up, or like if you're on a sofa and me on
Mm,
top and riding. I just find that feels best for me. Because
I
obviously you
guess it's
can,
still cowgirl, isn't it?
yes, I guess it would be
But
cowgirl.
like upright cowgirl.
Yeah, I guess it would
Yeah.
be. What is, and we can do this as last question, or if you want to ask me one more, I'm more than happy to. What is the weirdest kink someone you've been with has had? Well, not weirdest, but like sort of out there, if there is one.
Um, Foot fetish.
I knew you were going to say that.
Mm, yeah, foot fetish.
Do you like your feet being sucked?
Um, no, yeah, I don't know. It depends on the mood. I think it really does depend because I think if you're like really into it and it's like feeling quite dirty or whatever, and you're vibing it, and I don't know. I think it depends personally on the mood for me.
Yeah.
Um, do you have any kinks, fetishes, or guilty pleasures?
See, it's really interesting because I'm exploring this side of me basically alone because I'm not doing it with a partner. So obviously I think when you have a partner, obviously that opens up a lot of other doors because you're able to kind of like, if I was with someone and they were like, oh, I'd like to try this, I'd be like, oh, okay, let's try that. But I think for me, I was gonna say, I think for me at this point, I just want to have sex. Like, I'm at that point where like, this is like something as well that we haven't really spoken about, but like, I'm at that point where like masturbating just isn't really hitting the same. Do you know what I mean? Like, it is different. It is different having sex with someone than it is having sex with yourself in a sense. So I think for me at this point, I would just enjoy having sex with someone. um, I can't really think off the top of my head. Um, there is a guy that I found recently on Instagram who he's a TikToker, but I can't remember his name. And in a lot of his videos, he spits in girls' mouths. And I'm like, I don't know why, but I just really want him to spit in my mouth.
Drop him a DM. Hey, dude, please
Yeah,
can you
hey
spit in my
dude, do you want to
mouth?
spit in my mouth? But yeah,
Hey.
I think it depends on people as well, because I'll see people like on social media doing certain things. I'm like, oh yeah, I'd quite like them to do that to me.
Mm.
Um,
What turns you on?
First thing that came to mind was sounds so like superficial, but beards. Like, but I think
Mm.
that's because there's a guy that I'm not hung up on, but there's a guy that I find very attractive, and when I masturbate, typically I think of him. He's someone I know personally. He's not like a famous person. And he has got a beard. And I just imagine that beard and it really does it for me. Um, so yeah, I think beards and also just like confidence.
Mm,
like having someone to lead as well. Like that is something that really turns me on, is having a guy take control and lead, because I've not had that for a really long time. So I think for me, that would be it.
mm.
What about you?
Um, I mean, my partner really fucking
Yeah.
turns me on, so that's my answer.
Yeah. 100%. Shout out.
Yeah, yeah, shout out. Yeah, bit like, yeah, he has a beard. He's confident and he's very fit. So I
You
just want
like
to
a
rip his
beard.
clothes off every 2 seconds. So that's great.
I
That
love
turns
that
me.
for you. I love that for you. Well, happy Valentine's Day to you, Lois, and your partner.
Oh, thank you, and happy Valentine's to you, Jamie, and to everyone else listening. Happy
Yep.
Galentine's
Yep.
Day.
Your Valentine, your Galentines, whatever it is. But oh, I hope you enjoyed the episode, everyone. There are so many topics that we could have dived into, and I'm sure we will do another one of these because I think a lot of ladies are going to enjoy this. If you did enjoy it, then please share on your socials. Maybe send this to a friend, or if you've got that kind of relationship with your mum or a sister or an auntie or your boyfriend, whoever you think would benefit from hearing something like this, then please do. But yeah, thank you very much for listening, everyone. And thank you, Lois, for coming on. And thank you for being so open about this topic as well. Because, yeah, I think this conversation is very healing for a lot of people.